Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your man Rob, and we back with another Rob Reacts. And in this one, we're gonna do something a little different. We're gonna be checking out YouTube's darkest videos. You'll see it on the next page, but I'm gonna say it now as well. Viewer discretion is advised. That some of this content can be a little unsettling, but let's just jump right into it.
It was a tense scene in the city of Culiacan, Mexico, as a group of officers surrounded a home with their weapons drawn, and that tension was more than justified, as the officers were soon to become part of history, taking down one of the most notorious criminals in the region, a man named Ovidio Guzman Lopez, the son of Joaquin Guzman, also known as El Chapo.
There he is, the man known as El Chapo, finally back in custody after 13 years on the run since bribing his way out of prison.
Despite his father having been arrested back in 2014, Ovidio was still a free man, continuing his father's legacy by taking a lead role in the cartel. But this day was set to be his last as a free man, as officers prepared to enter the home and detain Ovidio. The sting itself was supposedly set up by the Mexican government as a way to halt the cartel's reign over the region, and for the cops partaking in this daring moment, they were set to be heroes should it all go off without a hitch.
Sal, Ovidio. Vente, tranquilo, señor, tranquilo. Ven, Ovidio, venga, tranquilo, salga aquí, venga. Tranquilo, tranquilo, aquí, señor. Tranquilo, listo. ¿Anda aquí tus manos? ¿Traes armas?
In that day, that's exactly what would happen, as Ovidio was taken into custody and the scene was secured without a single shot being fired, making what should have been a huge win for the Mexican government, had the story ended there.
So, the Mexican mafia set up a sting to have El Chapo's son arrested. It worked perfectly. And now this is about to be the aftermath of him being arrested.
The city of Culiacan, Mexico, the historic homeland to the violent Sinaloa drug cartel, turned into a battle zone Thursday.
The city quickly became a war zone, with the cartel sending over 700 armed soldiers in retaliation against the arrest of Ovidio, all despite the fact that officers had actually made Ovidio call off any such actions by the cartel, as shown in the end of this body cam footage, though they refused to listen. And within hours, the military in the region was completely overwhelmed. And with the city in absolute chaos and countless fatalities looming in the distance, the Mexican government would make a shocking decision to allow Ovidio Guzman to walk free. The move was stunning, though it did immediately quell the fighting in the region, and for a moment, all seemed calm. Though in the minds of the cartel members, things were nowhere near even. Which brings us back to this video. In it, we see multiple officers taking part in the operation, with the leader of it all being a man named Eduardo. And though these officers likely thought that their actions that day would make them heroes, this decision would instead make them hunted. Just days after the botched arrest, Eduardo would be stalked and confronted by armed members of the cartel, who would open fire in a hailstorm of bullets when the man was in his car. In total, 155 shots were fired at Eduardo, who never stood a chance. And the horrors of this video don't end there, as despite Eduardo being the only officially confirmed death of all of these officers, it has been heavily rumored that in the time since the recording, every single one of the officers seen in this clip have since been killed, as they became the cartel's easiest form of revenge against the police, being picked off one by one to send a message to the whole world. And watching this clip back and seeing just how calm Ovidio was during his arrest, I have to believe that he knew that this was going to happen. And though he was the one being arrested, it really seemed like it was the police that had fallen into his trap, making this yet another example of the disturbed content found across the depths of YouTube. there are hundreds of thousands of others who will land well short of achieving that fame. And lost in the crowd of these nameless faces was an aspiring rapper named Mathboy Fly. His real name is Darrell Brooks, a now 39-year-old man who had spent most of his life on the wrong side of the law. At the age of just 17, he would pick up his first felony for battery, and from there he would never really get his life back on track, picking up fresh charges on a regular basis. By 2007, Darrell's life was in a total freefall, as he had become addicted to meth while picking up his most serious conviction yet for rape against a minor, which not only landed him in prison, but it also landed him on the sex offender registry. Clearly, Darrell was a disturbed man dealing with some extremely dark personal demons, which just so happened to be captured by a film crew who at the time were documenting the struggles of meth addiction. The movie's name is Crystal Darkness, and in it we see a short segment showing Darrell in prison, sharing how he had abandoned his kid due to his addiction, while expressing regret that he couldn't give his child a better life.
You know, I got this beautiful kid who's going without my time. I thought I would just be this wonderful father, just be the greatest dad ever. I'm gonna give him everything that I didn't have. But then it's like reality set in.
In an interview years later, the director of the project, a man named Logan Needham, described Darrell as seemingly genuine in his pursuit to turn his life around, stating, "I felt like he definitely had remorse, and I think he felt bad about the decisions he had made to land him where he was." However,
Yeah, but we'll get to it. But if you don't know, already know who this guy is, he would hit his most recent crime was not too long ago when he ran his SUV through a parade, killing children. Yeah, nope. Still had no remorse.
Darrell would never turn this new leaf, and once he was released, his dangerous behavior only got worse, as time and time again he would find himself back behind bars, facing charges like strangulation, domestic abuse, and bail jumping. Though he didn't let these endless legal troubles get in the way of his one true dream, a dream that he believed would finally bring him some semblance of success in this world, with that being to become a famous rapper. And so he took on the nickname Mathboy Fly and began posting his music to YouTube, where we find what would one day become one of the darkest videos on the site.
I just got a load worth about a half a ticket. 30 in the blicker when I'm out here chasing chicken. Was observant to the game when I used to play the benches. Now I swipe Da Vinci, got him looking at me different.
The video was posted back in the summer of 2018 and featured Darrell's song, Half a Ticket. The video features a lot of your standard music video visuals, though ultimately nothing really stands out all that much upon first viewing, aside from how bad it sounds. But today, this clip is viewed in a far different manner. Around the time of its release, something was brewing inside of Darrell. His life was at a dead end and he knew it, leading to his violent temper growing worse and worse by the day. In 2020, Darrell would be arrested for firing a shot at his nephew during an argument, and though the bullet thankfully missed the man, Darrell would still be faced with 10 years in prison, as police discovered that the gun he had used was actually stolen, along with a large amount of meth being found in Darrell's pocket, which all cultivated into the prospect of a lengthy prison sentence. Though due to issues with the pandemic, Darrell would eventually be allowed to leave police custody, as his bail had been reduced to just $500. Unsurprisingly, this would further enable Darrell's behavior, and the following year he would yet again be arrested. In this particular case, Darrell had been in his car stalking his ex-girlfriend, who was also the mother of his child, before pulling up alongside her and demanding that she get in. Concerned for her safety, the woman refused to enter the car, to which Darrell reacted by running her over. Thankfully, this woman too would survive the ordeal, though shockingly, despite Daryl's constant run-ins with the law, as well as this crime having taken place when he was literally already on bail, he would yet again avoid jail time, as his bail was in this case set at just $1,000.
So our legal system that's all jacked up allowed this violent guy multiple opportunities to hurt people with these lenient jail sentences. But that, wow, way to drop the ball.
Free again, Daryl likely began to think that he was above the law, which paired with his escalating anger would unsurprisingly lead to one more violent outburst, though what was surprising was just how violent it would be. On November 21st, 2021, days after Daryl's most recent arrest, police would be called to the home of his ex-girlfriend as they had yet again gotten into another dispute. But this time, before things had gotten too far out of hand, Daryl stormed out, got into his car, and drove away. Though rather than this being some sign of restraint, this was instead seemingly part of a far more malicious decision, leading to one devastating event. That day, Daryl Brooks would drive his car directly into the annual Waukesha Christmas Parade at speeds of over 40 miles per hour, driving in a zigzag pattern in an attempt to strike as many people as possible, none of whom Daryl had known personally, as this was simply an act of pure rage. The videos of this event and its aftermath are brutal, and it's something that I'm not allowed to fully show here, but in total, 62 people were struck, most of whom were children or senior citizens who were just trying to enjoy this beloved community celebration. And of these victims, sadly, 6 would perish. Following the tragedy, Daryl attempted to flee the area, even begging a stranger to let him into his home and to order him an Uber, which would be caught on a Ring doorbell camera, though he would quickly be captured by police soon after, and is now facing a whopping 77 charges. And despite the leniency he's enjoyed from the court system over the years, it seems that this time, the judge will not show him that same type of mercy.
I wasn't a human anymore. I was just something vile, disgusting, despicable. I could go on, I could use a lot of words, but that's what I became. It's really what I became.
Knowing what Daryl has become, and watching this documentary back with this context, makes it a truly haunting watch, as no one involved, not even Daryl himself, knew just how bad things would one day become. But there is a reason that I mention this seemingly obscure music video as being one of the darkest videos on the site, and it's for a reason that is very easy to look right over.
I just got a load worth about a half a ticket.
As Daryl is shown rapping in the video, within its background, we can see a red SUV. The same SUV that just a few years later would bring chaos, pain, and despair to a local parade, and ultimately end the lives of so many innocent people. It was a day of celebration for David Turpin and his wife Louise, another in a long line of wedding anniversaries that they'd celebrate by renewing their vows in Vegas. And to make the moment even more special, they were able to do so with their 13 children in attendance. When they first married all the way back in 1985, David was just a 23-year-old man, and Louise was a 16-year-old child. And despite all the years that had passed, it seemed the love they had for each other was still very much blossoming, as they renewed their vows to each other in this same manner practically every year, as shown in other clips scattered across YouTube. And aside from the love they had for each other, these videos also seem to show the love they had for their children. as together, the group seemed to form a massive yet close-knit family unit, known as the Turpin family. And these clips would be just the start of their long trail left here on YouTube. Sometime following these various clips being left across the internet, one of the daughters shown within this old footage would begin uploading videos of her own life to a secret channel that at the time only she knew of. The then 17-year-old's name is Jordan Turpin, and across her page she would post videos of herself singing original songs in her bedroom.
But it's over, it's over, it's over.
While showing incredibly brief glimpses into her home life. And as a whole, these videos seem nothing too out of the ordinary, especially for a 17-year-old girl, with her uploads eventually coming to an end following the posting of yet another singing video.
What now do I do? Look at me, here I am.
And throughout the channel's lifespan, there really are no obvious red flags that could point to any concerning activity happening behind the scenes. As aside from a few moments here and there, Jordan never really opened up to the camera or revealed any details about her personal life, as for the most part, she only used the page for her music, making it practically impossible to tell that in reality, something unbelievably sinister was transpiring within the walls of the Turpin home, with it having gone unnoticed for years before, and what would have likely been years later, had it not been for the actions of Jordan. As just 1 week after her final upload, a call would be made to 911 from the young lady herself.
So, I'm not really familiar with this family or what happened with them. I mean, they're focusing on this one girl, Jordan. I'm assuming that she might go crazy or something, do something wild or something, I don't know, but we about to check it out.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
I just went away from home because I live in a family of 15. We have abusing parents. Did you hear that? They hit us, they like to throw us across the room. They pull our hair, they yank out our hair. My 2 little sisters right now are chained up.
In this clip, we hear the audio from Jordan's call to the local police station as she attempts to explain that her parents had not only been abusing her, but all of her siblings as well. Given the severity of the claim, an officer would immediately be sent to meet with Jordan, who had been standing outside in a nearby neighborhood, with the entire interaction being captured on the officer's body camera.
What's going on?
Okay. I just ran away from home.
Okay.
And I live in a family of 15.
Okay.
My 2 little sisters right now are chained up.
They're chained up?
Yes.
Where are they chained up at?
On their bed. They're chained up because they stole mother's food.
Okay.
But they stole it because they were hungry.
Jordan explains to the officer that 2 of her siblings were currently chained to their beds, all because they had attempted to steal some of their mother's food. Even more shockingly, Jordan explains that her nervous and oftentimes awkward behavior was due to the fact that she had never really met anyone from the outside world.
I'm sorry if I talk too much. I've never talked to anybody out there, so I've never been alone with a person, so it's very hard for me to talk.
And that in order for her to get help, she literally had to escape from her own home, as she was never allowed to leave.
And the reason I managed to get out here, this is one of the most scariest things I've ever done. I'm terrified.
Initially, the officer was a bit hesitant, even questioning whether Jordan was on medication, to which she responded in a confused manner, due to the fact that she had never even heard that word before.
Do you take any medication?
What's medication?
Medication?
Yeah, what's medication?
Do you take pills?
And ultimately, the man eventually realizes just how serious the situation was, as Jordan actually came with proof.
I don't have proof of everything, but I have proof that my sisters are chained up. Look at them. See, those are the places that make it on them. And see how dirty she is? We're so filthy. We don't take baths. We don't.
How did your sisters get like this? Your parents chained them up?
Yes.
The whole ordeal was shocking, though it was only part of the story, as when police entered the home that very night, they discovered the full scope of the abuse that had been taking place within that building. Inside, officers would be greeted with the overwhelming scent of excrement and garbage.
Oh my God. The girl's not crazy. The frigging parents are crazy. Abusing their kid. Oh my, no. Wow. I mean, I have 2 kids. This one hits. This one hurts. How could you do this to your... This is gonna be rough.
Which was covering practically the entirety of the house. They would also find 12 other siblings, one of whom had been chained up for weeks, and 2 others that had just recently been freed. The children were malnourished beyond belief, and incredibly frail, and much to the shock of the officers, some of them were actually adults, with the oldest being 29 years old, though had been mistakenly believed to be a child, as they had weighed only 89 pounds, due to the fact that the children were only allowed to eat a small amount just once per day. The children were all covered in bruises, which had come from the constant beatings from their parents, while also being covered in filth, as individually the kids were only allowed 1 shower, not per day and not per week, but per year. The abuse that had gone on in the Turpin family home at the hands of both Luis and David was truly unthinkable, with perhaps the most egregious crime being committed by Luis, as on many occasions she was said to have prostituted multiple of her children to wealthy men, and all in order to earn more money for the family, while the couple otherwise kept the children locked within the home for the entirety of their lives, torturing them beyond belief, despite the fact that on social media they would post photos portraying them as a perfect loving unit. Which leads me back to the trail of videos left behind on YouTube. For starters, you may be wondering how these children were able to attend these wedding ceremonies if they were truly never allowed to leave the house. Well, these clips actually show what may very well be the only times in these kids' lives that they were ever allowed to leave their home, as once a year they were allowed to go to this ceremony, not as a reward or anything like that, but to disguise the Turpins as being a happy family. This footage quite literally shows some of the only moments of freedom within these children's entire life up until this point. And as for the videos that Jordan had posted to her YouTube channel, well, there's a reason that I said that it was a secret page that only she knew of, because social media or contact from the outside world in any form was strictly prohibited throughout the house. And if her parents had known about this channel, it's likely that she would have faced unimaginable punishment. However, this didn't stop Jordan from uploading these clips, with them likely being a desperate attempt to be heard from anyone else out there in the world that she had forever been kept from. And in many ways, this displays the bravery that Jordan clearly had within her, and the bravery that would eventually lead to her taking the ultimate risk, breaking free of the home and saving her siblings from this torture. And if she hadn't done this, it's likely the kids would have remained imprisoned to this day.
I mean, kids are so innocent. To your own children, to your own flesh and blood, living children, you abused and tortured and ow.
The full case of the Turpin family is a rabbit hole far too extensive to fully explain here, but eventually the parents would wind up going to trial, where it would be decided that they would spend the rest of their lives in prison. And though this tragic case has forever left an impact on the 13 children involved, we can at least take some solace in the fact that this torture is over now.
Yeah. You prostituted your daughters, you beat your kids, you chained them to the beds because they were hungry and they took food. You let them bathe once a year. Like what? Oh, people like that don't deserve to be around, man.
Or at least it should have been.
A foster family in Paris has been accused of abusing several foster children, including some of the Turpin siblings.
In what would become the
dear
most
God.
tragic twist imaginable in a case like this, it was just recently revealed that the foster family who had taken 5 of the Turpin children has now been accused of abusing those very kids. The parents, Marcelino Olgan and Rosa Olgan, along with their son Lenny, are all facing over a dozen charges, including child cruelty, witness intimidation, and false imprisonment. And making matters even more demented is the fact that the father, Marcelino, was additionally charged with performing lewd acts on a minor, as it's been alleged that he actually molested 2 of the children. It is just such a tragic revelation to come from an already sickening case, and the fact that this was able to happen to these kids again is some of the most disheartening news that I have ever heard. And I hate to leave this video off on such an awful note, so I do want to say that some of the Turpin children have gone on to live their own lives, that thankfully have been free of abuse, as Jordan herself has actually become a star on TikTok and is clearly thriving given her newfound freedom. So it isn't all horribly depressing, but some of it sadly is, and I hope that the remaining children can finally be placed in a loving environment, free of the abuse that has plagued their life.
That's going to do it for this one, guys. I appreciate you sticking around to the end. I'm your man, Rob, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.